They broke you when you least expected it. Not with a knife, not with violence, but with silence. The kind that echoes after trust collapses. When you look around and realize everyone's eyes are pretending not to see, you replay the moment in your head 1,000 times. The handshake that meant nothing, the smile that hid calculation, the loyalty that turned to smoke. You thought the rules protected you. You thought effort meant safety. But the truth struck harder than betrayal itself. The game was never built for your survival. It was built to feed on those who still believe in fairness. You remember the air that night. It felt colder, sharper, like the world was watching you lose something it had already decided to take. Every word you spoke after that sounded foreign. Every promise around you felt scripted. That was the day you realized no one saves you when the knife isn't visible. That was the day you learned that betrayal is not a mistake. It's a message. They didn't stab you because you were weak. They stabbed you because you were pure, because purity threatens control, and they couldn't afford to let you stay clean. In that silence, something ancient woke up inside you, something older than kindness, colder than revenge. It whispered that survival isn't about staying good, it's about staying unreadable. That trust is not a virtue, but a weapon placed in the wrong hands. You started noticing how they study you, your tone, your patience, your habits. They watch, waiting for repetition. Because repetition is predictable, and predictable means powerless. You realize that every rule you followed made you visible, and visibility made you prey. That night, you stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending what they could never understand. You watched the system turn its face away as if you were nothing, and you understood the secret it never says aloud. It doesn't reward effort. It rewards manipulation disguised as wisdom. It rewards masks. And in that realization, a small death occurred inside you, the death of your innocence. But from that corpse, something sharper began to grow. You no longer chased validation. You began to study people like puzzles with missing pieces. You learned to speak less and see more. Every betrayal taught precision. Every loss shaped calculation. They thought they buried you under their deceit, but they only buried your noise. What rose in its place was silence, dangerous, disciplined, deliberate. You stopped fearing shadows and started becoming one. You no longer wanted to be seen. You wanted to be remembered by the ones who should have never crossed you. Now, when they look into your eyes, they sense it, that quiet, unnerving calm that follows a storm. You don't fight for fairness anymore. You don't ask for justice. You became something the rules can't control, something even fear respects. Because once you've been betrayed by everything you trusted, there's only one truth left to live by. You don't break rules anymore. Rules break themselves to survive you. They never needed to chain your body. They learned long ago that fear is more efficient when it lives inside your mind. So they fed you approval disguised as love, and you swallowed it like medicine. You were taught to obey, to blend in, to lower your tone in rooms where your fire once roared. You learned to apologize before you even made a mistake. And every time you did, another piece of your will turned to dust. They called it humility, but it was submission. They called it kindness, but it was obedience. What they really wanted was silence, not peace, but the quiet of a mind that no longer questioned. Weakness isn't born. It's manufactured in plain sight. It starts when they reward your compliance and punish your instinct, when they convince you that ambition is arrogance and that comfort is safety. They take the spark you were born with and smother it under layers of politeness, distraction, and guilt. You begin to crave permission for your own existence. You wait for someone to tell you what's right, what's acceptable, what's enough. That's the moment they win, when you need validation more than truth. You become predictable, programmable, docile, a lion pacing in a cage built from his own fear. They sell weakness like religion. They preach patience to keep you passive, faith to keep you waiting, hope to keep you harmless. And you believe them because rebellion feels lonely and comfort feels warm. But comfort is the slowest kind of death. It kills your edge. It erases your hunger. It teaches you to sit quietly while smaller minds write the rules you'll spend a lifetime obeying. You start to forget the taste of risk. You start to forget what it meant to burn. They whisper, be grateful, when what they mean is stay small. Every system thrives on your hesitation. The moment you hesitate, someone else decides for you. Someone else takes the position, the recognition, the power. and you tell yourself it's fate, but deep down you know you handed it to them. You watched them eat what was yours and called it destiny. But there's nothing sacred about submission. There's nothing holy about being harmless. The world doesn't bow to good intentions. It bends for those who act without asking. One day, you'll look at the mirror and see it. The ghost of who you were before the conditioning began. The stare of someone who once had no limits. That version of you is still inside, pacing, waiting for the sound of breaking glass, the sound of the illusion collapsing. The day you stop seeking their permission will be the day they start fearing your existence. Because weakness was never your nature, it was their design. And now that you see it, they can't hide you from yourself anymore. You were never free. You were managed, fed the illusion of choice, of peace, of a balanced life that kept you tame enough to never question who was holding the leash. They told you to calm down, to relax, to enjoy your comfort zone, never mentioning that comfort is just another word for sedation. You built your own cage piece by piece out of routines, habits, and screens that blink in rhythm with your heartbeat. You scroll through distractions like a prisoner tracing the walls of his own cell, mistaking movement for freedom. You've mistaken comfort for safety when in truth it's the slowest form of execution. Every cage begins with a whisper, a parent, a teacher, a lover, someone who told you to be realistic. And so you shrunk yourself to fit inside their fear. You stopped roaring because silence got you approval. You stopped fighting because peace got you applause. And soon you forgot what your own voice sounded like when it wasn't filtered for approval or softened for acceptance. They don't need to chain you when you've learned to kneel. You became predictable, polite, manageable, and they rewarded that predictability with fake stability, a false sense of belonging that dies the moment you stop playing along. Every system you trust was designed to keep you waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right permission to live. But the right time never comes, because the game isn't built for you to win. It's built to drain your hunger until you mistake fatigue for peace. They want you tired enough to stop trying, but grateful enough to never complain. They study your emotions, feed your fears, and sell your dreams back to you in monthly payments. You think you're chasing freedom, but you're just walking circles inside their maze, where ambition is a sin and mediocrity is a virtue. Look closer. Every smiling face carries a script. Every compliment hides a transaction. They don't tell you this, but loyalty has an expiration date in their world. And the moment you outgrow your cage, they'll call you dangerous. Because danger, to them, is anyone who thinks for themselves. That's why they drown you in noise, in dopamine, in cheap validation. So you forget that silence was once your power, but deep down something still resists. The faint pulse of rebellion that hums when the world goes quiet. The part of you that still remembers what it felt like to be untamed. The truth is brutal, the cage was never locked. You were just afraid to walk out. You feared losing what you never really owned, approval, comfort, belonging. But the day you stopped seeking safety in the systems that fed on your compliance, you stopped being their product. The bars disappear, the cage collapses. And for the first time, the silence doesn't scare you, it obeys you. They thought breaking you would be the end. That betrayal would make you fold, crawl back, beg for the noise that once filled your silence. But the silence didn't kill you, it refined you. The chaos outside became background music, a dull hum compared to the war you began to wage inside. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped reacting. That's when everything changed. You realized your enemies never wanted your destruction, they wanted your distraction. And you gave them neither. You started studying them in the quiet hours. Every word, every glance, every delay. You saw patterns, predictable, sloppy, loud. You noticed how noise always reveals desperation. How stillness, real stillness, terrifies the untrained. So you became a ghost, no warnings, no posts, no visible rage. Just the eerie calm before the storm no one believes is coming. You learned the deadliest people in history never announced their intent. They simply adjusted their posture, and the world shifted around them. You began to weaponize patience. While they scrambled for attention, you built invisibility. While they performed power, you learned control. It wasn't about hiding. It was about vanishing in plain sight, mastering the art of becoming unreadable. You spoke less, but every word carried gravity. You moved slower, but every step echoed purpose. The world that once ignored you started to whisper your name in uncertainty. They couldn't predict you anymore, and that's what made them afraid. Predictability is comfort. You took that from them. You stopped chasing validation and started collecting silence like ammunition. You trained your emotions until even pain became a message written in code. Every disappointment turned into data. Every loss, a lesson in camouflage. You began to see the truth. Visibility is vulnerability. The loudest warrior dies first, so you waited, like shadow in water, still reflective, unreadable. And when you finally moved, it wasn't out of rage or revenge. It was precision, it was calculation. You no longer begged the world to understand your intent. You let the tension in your absence speak louder than any words. They began to sense you before they saw you. They felt your presence like a shift in temperature, an invisible pull in the room. You became the unknown variable, the danger no one can trace, the silence that bends rules around it. You didn't need approval to move anymore. You didn't need noise to prove existence. You had become the storm disguised as still air, the ghost that doesn't haunt. It studies, waits, and then strikes once cleanly. Now when they look for you, they find nothing. No traces, no reaction, no weakness. Just the echo of something they can't understand. And that's when you realize true power isn't loud, righteous, or seen. It's silent, ruthless, and everywhere. You move like a ghost because ghosts don't die. They just stop explaining why they're still here. Pain was never your enemy. It was your first teacher, the one no one thanked, the one no one survived unchanged. It stripped you bare, peeled you open, and whispered truths your comfort would have never let you hear. Every betrayal you endured was a message carved into your skin. Nothing real can be taken from you. When they lied, when they left, when they broke you, that was initiation. You weren't being destroyed. You were being reforged. The fire wasn't sent to end you. It was sent to expose the metal beneath the skin. You just mistook purification for punishment. You spent years trying to outrun pain, calling it unfair, swearing you'd never trust again. But that was fear talking, the same voice that chained your potential, made you beg for safety when you were born for storms. Pain didn't come to stop you. It came to strip you of illusions. It showed you what loyalty truly cost. It showed you who would vanish when your silence got heavy. It showed you that the world doesn't reward innocence. It rewards those who understand the cost of peace. Every scar on you is a lesson in strategy. Every wound taught you where not to bleed next time. When people turned their backs, they didn't take anything you needed. They took distractions. When love became betrayal, it revealed that your power was never meant to be shared with the unprepared. The same hands that dropped you taught you how to land without sound. You learned that rage is wasted on revenge. It burns fast and blinds deeply. But when you let pain settle, when you let it speak instead of scream, it becomes calculation. You start seeing patterns where others see chaos. You begin to sense weakness in people who never noticed. Pain sharpens perception until the world moves in slow motion, and you move like precision. Your scars are not memories, they are manuals. Each one tells you how to survive another ambush, how to read intent behind smiles, how to remain silent when silence disorients your enemies. You stop reacting. You stop proving. You start planning. The fire inside you stops seeking validation. It seeks victory. Every insult becomes ammunition. Every rejection becomes intelligence. You no longer crave healing. You crave understanding. You realize that healing was never the goal. Integration was. You don't bury pain. You wear it like armor, cold and deliberate. And now, when pain visits again, you don't flinch. You welcome it like an old friend who speaks in codes. You let it sit beside you in silence, because you know what it means now. It's not punishment, it's permission. Permission to evolve beyond recognition. Permission to walk alone, eyes forward, heart armored, spirit burning. Pain is not the proof you're broken. It's the signal that your next evolution has begun. And this time, you don't rise gently. You rise without mercy. You used to flinch at the sound of your own thoughts. You filled every silence with movement, every pause with words, desperate to be understood, terrified of being forgotten. That's over now. You've learned the rule no one dares say out loud. Power doesn't roar. It watches, it waits, it calculates. You no longer chase noise, you study it, track it, weaponize it. Every breath you take now is measured, every glance deliberate. You've become the kind of quiet that makes the room colder, the kind that reminds people they're prey. You walk differently now, not faster, not louder, but heavier with intention. Every step carries the weight of restraint, and that restraint is more terrifying than rage. The weak show their hunger, the strong hide it until it starves everything around them. You no longer need to prove anything. You are proof. Your control is your dominance. You've stopped fighting chaos with more chaos. Now you use stillness as a blade. You let others panic while you observe, while you predict, while you decide who walks out and who doesn't. They once called you emotionless. They were right. Emotion is a luxury for those who still seek mercy. You seek precision. You understand that empathy without discipline is self-destruction. So you've taught your heart to go silent when it's time to move. No hesitation, no debate, just execution. That's what separates you now. Your decisions are final before the world even knows a choice was made. You're not the storm anymore. You're the pressure before it hits. The kind that bends metal and breaks willpower long before thunder arrives. You've stopped seeking approval. Approval is for followers. You've stopped explaining yourself. Explanation is for the unsure. You simply act and the world rearranges itself around your decisions. You've seen the pattern. The loud ones fade first, the reckless ones burn early. The clever ones survive longer, but only the silent ones rule. That's the hierarchy no one admits exists. The wolf that moves alone doesn't need a pack. It becomes the landscape itself, feared, unseen, and inevitable. Your reflection doesn't scare you anymore, it obeys. The same eyes that once begged for peace now demand results. You wear your past like armor, every scar a coded message written in survival. They tried to make you a victim, you became an omen. When you enter a room, tension follows. When you leave, silence lingers. That's not presence, that's control. And you earned it by mastering the oldest language known to predators. Patience. The world keeps talking, running, pretending to matter. You just stand there unshaken, calculating. Because deep down, you already know. The most dangerous thing in existence isn't chaos, it's a mind that learned how to stay calm inside it. The world grows quiet after you rise. No applause, no validation. Just the faint echo of everything that tried to bury you and failed. You stand where your fears once lived, and the silence feels heavier than war. You've stopped explaining yourself, stopped fighting battles that prove nothing. Power doesn't demand to be seen. It commands through presence. You used to chase recognition. Now recognition chases the feeling you leave behind. That's what they never understood. Power is invisible because it no longer seeks attention. There was a time when every loss cut deep, when betrayal made your hands shake, when the world's indifference felt personal. But now you understand what few ever will. Those moments weren't punishments, they were training. Every scar carved a language into your soul, one that only the ruthless can read. You learned to walk through the fire without flinching, to smile when they lied, and to disappear before they realized you never needed them. The version of you that begged to be seen has died quietly, and in its place stands something colder, sharper, patient beyond comprehension. They call you distant now, detached, as if distance isn't a weapon, as if detachment isn't control. The truth is, they fear what they can't decode. You've become unreadable, a mirror that shows people their own weakness reflected back. You speak less, but when you do, words hit like gunfire. You move slower, but every step lands like thunder. You've stripped emotion down to precision. Nothing leaks out, nothing wastes. The chaos that once ruled you now waits for your command. The hunger for revenge has faded too. You don't need to strike anymore. The world breaks itself trying to predict you. The same system that mocked you now bends quietly, adjusting its rhythm to survive your existence. You became the variable they can't control, the anomaly that walks through their equations untouched. That's the irony. When you stop trying to prove your worth, everything begins to orbit around it. Power shifts, gravity changes, and you're no longer a part of the storm. You are the eye inside it. There's a stillness in your strength now, not the silence of peace, but the silence before impact. You watch without reacting, you plan without revealing, and you move without leaving footprints. The weak scream to be heard, the powerful only breathe. You are the breath before fear takes hold, the calm that unnerves the crowd. Every room bends slightly when you enter, not because you're loud, but because you no longer need to be. So you stay silent, and the world listens harder. You don't break rules anymore. Rules break themselves to survive you. Comfort kills, silence wins, weakness bleeds. And somewhere deep down, they already know which one you've become.